Hey everybody, welcome to This Queen Again. I'm James Bradford, comedian, singer, actor, and podcast host, I guess, because what this world needs right now, in a moment of poverty, suffering, and pandemic fear, is another podcast about the entertainment industry, hosted by a gay person, a sexy, sexy gay person. Okay, I'm so excited to debut this podcast, and our first episode is actually 2 episodes, because I just could not get enough of our first 2 guests. We start out today with comedian Todd Masterson, but before we get into that, can we talk about faces and hands? I am an introvert, I know, I'm shocked too. I don't like to talk to strangers out in the wild, and the way I have avoided this my entire life is by using my face and my hands, and yes, this is mostly my strategy at a bathhouse too, but focus, we're talking about communication. Facial expression and wild homosexual gesticulation are the ways in which I have navigated through life, but, and I am sure this is news to everyone, we are in a pandemic. A pandemic that has us covering half of our faces. That means smiling to acknowledge someone is ineffective. I can no longer smile and turn my head when some random Linda at Target tries to strike up a conversation. By and large, my only option is winking, and that sends a message that can get you into real trouble. So you think, well, why not fall back onto those hands? See me with them hands. Here's the thing. As an old white person, my go-to gesture is the OK sign. Okay, right. What's the problem? Friends, I would like you to make the OK sign with your hands right now and look at it. Does it look like anything problematic? Oh yes, the OK sign is nearly identical to the charming, Proud Boy endorsed white power signal that they flash to each other to indicate, I don't know, how big their dicks are or whatever. My hand options are limited. Again, I'm not talking about bathhouses. So I can throw a peace sign, which just makes me seem high as fuck. Or I can do an I love you, which, well, see above, re-winking. Or, unfortunately, I actually have to speak to strangers, because these are the times we're living in. Living in a socially distant pandemic has forced me to interact with more people than I ever had to before. And I have that look, dear listener, that look of someone who wants to be your friend. I don't want to be your friend, which, by the way, is also the name of the best Cyndi Lauper song. Look it up. But it's also my truth. I don't want to give you directions or converse about the quality of the oranges at Whole Food. I just want to get out, get my task done, and go home and watch porn like a normal American. I do want to be your friend, listener, so to that end, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Todd Masterson. Todd Masterson is a comedian, writer, and producer living with his teeny tiny husband in West Hollywood, California. He has written for such timeless icons as Joan Rivers and RuPaul. A writing alumni of the CBS Diversity Showcase, Todd has gone on to create Gay Fat Friend. On Instagram, it's a satirical body positivity movement with over 30,000 followers. He's also my not-so-secret crush, and I'm delighted to get into this interview with him. Forgive me for the double intro, you'll see why in a second, but please enjoy this pandemic interview with Todd. All right, everybody, I am so excited to introduce the very first guest ever on This Queen Again. So let's go over his totally not exaggerated biography. He went to school at the Groundlings, where he actually invented improvisational comedy. He was a writer on Fashion Police and personally maintained Joan Rivers' cosmetic surgeries. He created all of the challenges on season 7 of RuPaul's Drag Race. Also, he created drag. And he is the brilliant and sexy mind behind the breakout character Gay Fat Friend, even though he himself is neither gay or anybody's friend. It is my absolute joy to welcome the impressive and literally psychic Todd Masterson. Yay, noises!
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so psyched that you're here. I just have to say, first of all, congratulations to you and your partner, Rob, on 9 years together.
Thanks, yeah, yesterday.
That's a lot of years to be with another human person, especially when a solid chunk of it is in quarantine.
I know, right? We didn't kill each other. We're both still alive.
Well, that's fantastic. So I take it back. You're very, very gay. Not that I didn't know. Are you thinking of leaving LA? Because I think of you, honestly, as one of the comedic minds of LA. And the idea that you would be somewhere else is kind of like almost a bummer.
Well, there's no reason to live here anymore.
Yeah?
like the pandemic, the city is closed. There's nothing to do. The acting jobs are few and far between, and those are all in Canada or Georgia, or apparently New Mexico is going to be the new Georgia. Yeah, like writing, everyone's learning you can do everything from home. So there's no stand-up comedy anymore. That probably won't come back for at least, I don't know, 6 months or a year.
Yeah, at least.
I don't know. I've been here for 14 years too. I've lived here since 2006, and I'm just kind of over it. I miss seasons. I miss weather. And Rob works in video games. His company is pretty much 100% going to be work from home forever. Like everyone's just realizing, oh, we don't need offices anymore. There are a bunch of video game companies in Seattle, like Microsoft and stuff, and a bunch of companies that he works with because he makes trailers. He's on the advertising side. So a bunch of his clients are up in Seattle. So we're just like, let's move to Seattle. I've never been to Seattle my entire life. And Rob's only been a couple times for business. We have no like familial relationship to Seattle. Like there's no reason we need to go to Seattle, but we're just like, yeah, let's just go. So I feel like Washington is the most progressive state right now. So
really? Oh, you know what? I guess I can see that. Yeah.
I mean,
Gosh, I went to Seattle when I was maybe 12, and all I remember is the Space Needle and SeaWorld. And hopefully,
there's a SeaWorld in Seattle?
I think there was. I don't think there's any more.
Yeah.
Which, for better, I suppose.
There's no more SeaWorld here, so what's the point of living here? You
know? Well, I was going to make a joke about gay fat friend, but that we're not there yet. Well, I wish you a happy move, truly. Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, I could not do LA. I went to LA right around maybe 2 years before you moved there for like 6 months for pilot season, and I was like, bye, I eat food, so I can't be here.
Yeah, it's I didn't when I first moved here in 2006, I moved here out of not necessity, but like I was living in Brooklyn. I lived in Brooklyn for 3 years after college, and I was over New York. I was sick of New York, and so I was like, well, I'm a comedian and an actor. I guess LA is the other place to go. I only knew like 3 people here. I had never been here before either until I moved here. It was like fall is my favorite season, and I moved here on October 1st. So I was leaving like a beautiful fall, and I got to LA during like a fall heat wave. And so like the whole month of October was 100 degrees. And I was like,
oh God,
why did I do this? And then it was just so hot and gross. But now, having been here for a decade and a half, I've totally acclimated to like, it's 65 degrees and I'm freezing cold. And that's fall weather to me. Like if it was in the 40s and raining and there was no leaves on the trees, I'd be like, what is this? You know?
Right.
But yeah, when I first moved here in 06, I didn't know anyone, so I hated it. I was lonely. It was hot and it was gross. And LA has a smell to it. And I was like, I don't like the smell here. It's like desert diesel. Like it smells like exhaust and sand. I don't know. But now I've totally gotten accustomed to all of it. And I like when I smell that air, I'm like, ooh, it smells like LA today, you know? But
it's so interesting to me because I listened to an interview with you from around 5 years ago. And one of the things you talked about with the host of that interview was how you don't ever really hear the backstory of performers who you admire these days. So like in my mind, I just sort of imagined that you, Todd Masterson, moved to Los Angeles and immediately like Joan Rivers and RuPaul showed up at the door and were like, you are hilarious. Make this work for us. But clearly that's a fantasy.
Yeah, I wish. I moved here. I moved here October 1st. My job was background. I did background on TV and movies for 4 months, like a little into January. And I hated it. Like background is slave labor. It's disgusting. They pay nothing. The food is gross. Everyone's mean and rude. You have to do so much work for them. Like a lot of people don't know in background, you have to bring your own clothes. Like it's not like you go to the costume department unless you're doing a period piece. Like you bring your own clothes, and you have to bring a suitcase full of options because when they book you, they're like, you know, it's background at a movie theater. So bring like a long sleeve, a short sleeve, a black, a white, a blue. Like they just like make you bring so many things. So you're traveling all around with a suitcase full of clothes, sitting in these uncomfortable, god-awful chairs. You see these huge celebrities. You're on the shows that you love, but you can't talk to any of them. You can't, you can't experience anything. So I had previously worked for the company called Applebee's. And there is one Applebee's in Los Angeles. It's in Chatsworth, Northridge, which is the porn capital of the world, pretty much. But yeah, the one Applebee's in LA is there. It was 45 minutes away from my house. And I ended up like getting a transfer because I was still kind of in the company, even though I had worked there for like 6 months. And so I ended up working at Applebee's for a year and made a bunch of friends like with my coworkers and stuff. And that was when I started acclimating to LA because like, oh, I have friends now and I'm working and I see the same people every day and we all hate our jobs. So we all have the same things to commiserate over.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I waited tables for a long ass time because after that I got a job at another restaurant in Hollywood and worked there for 5 years. So I waited tables for 6 years before I got Fashion Police, which was my first TV job.
Yeah, because you were doing stand-up and you were taking classes at the Groundlings and just sort of, how did it roll into Fashion Police? I think you had some friends that were writers on the show, is that right?
Yeah, pretty much like every gay comedian in LA had written for it at one point. And so I had a bunch of friends do it. But I had done a show, a really bad, like the bar has literally been torn down. That's how bad this show was, like this building was. But there was this weekly stand-up show at this gay bar called The Palms, which was just the grossest, diviest, oldest bar. Like one of their claims to fame was that Marilyn Monroe used to go there. But yeah, so they did this weekly comedy show at The Palms and Joan's head writer, Tony, was on the show. I'd had a couple drinks and, he was in the show performing, but he also like watched the show. He's really good about that. And anyway, after the show, I was like drunkenly brave. And as a joke, I was like, I want to write for Joan on Fashion Police. How do I do that? And he was like, oh, here's my email. Just do this. And I was like, what? And then he sent me, I mean, looking back now, it was kind of he pretty much sent me a full episode to write for free as an audition. So I did a full episode's worth of work for free. But then Joan liked it and used a couple of those jokes on the show. And then Joan was like, okay, yeah, bring him in. And then they never really hired anyone. It was one of the ways they got around paying people certain things. You never knew if you were coming back the next week. Like literally people would be like, I didn't get like they would send out the email of all the dresses, all the celebrity looks that they were going to make fun of for that week. They would send that out on Friday nights and some people you just wouldn't get the email and be like, oh, I guess I'm done. Like no one ever got hired. No one ever got fired. It was just like, oh, I guess I don't work for the show anymore. I guess I'm just done.
Wow.
So
that's, yeah, I guess that definitely creates an environment for what ultimately ended up going down, huh?
Yeah. And there were always around 6 to 10 people writing every week, because we would have 20 to 30 dresses or celebrities to make fun of. I always called them dresses, but there's people in those dresses. But
right.
We would always have like 20 to 30 red carpet looks to make fun of. And they wanted on average 10 jokes per look. So, we're writing 200 to 300 jokes a week. And then there was always like 6 to 10 of us on staff. So, she's getting thousands of jokes a week. Yeah, but like I said, we were never hired or never fired. So that was one way. And I think we all got paid by E. It was for E, because E and NBC Universal were on our paychecks. But like we all like technically just worked for Joan. We didn't work for the show. It was weird. I actually don't know
because her production company was involved, right?
Well, her daughter's production company. Because like technically it was Melissa's show and Melissa was the boss.
And so not to like retread ground that for those that love Todd as much as I do, you probably know this story, but a lot of fabulous writers, many of them queer writers that were involved in the show were sort of egged on by the Writers Guild to go on strike and unionize and
Yeah. So the Writers Guild, there were rumblings of like unionizing the show, which, union pay is amazing and you get benefits and stuff like that. So, and the job of a union is to constantly be unionizing, We had a couple union writers on the show that were writing, I forget what the Writers Guild calls it, but like you're allowed to work non-union in SAG it's called FICOR. I don't know what it's called in the Writers Guild, but there were a couple like union writers writing for the show with permission from the Writers Guild. So then there were whispers and discussions and stuff. And then we all got this email from the Writers Guild being like, we'd love to bring you in for a meeting. And, it's all like exciting because none of us knew what was happening. So we all went to the Writers Guild and we started these meetings and met with their organizer and stuff like that. And then it just all became this like huge hullabaloo to where they convinced us to go on strike. And we stopped working. But I've found that strikes, and especially through this whole process, and I've seen it happen to other people because it happened with America's Next Top Model, strikes only work if it's a physical thing keeping the show in production. Like if all the cameramen and lighting guys, like if the whole crew goes on strike and the show can't be produced, then you'll get a contract. Or the whole industry goes on strike. Like if every show is going on strike to like stop writing, then you'll get a contract. But if one show, 10 people go on strike and stop writing a show that can be written by other people very quickly, maybe not as good, but it can be written very quickly. The way we set it up is we were going to call the strike the day all of our work was due, because we would pitch all of our jokes and write the show on Wednesday and then film Thursday morning. So we were at last minute, we were going to pretend like we were going into work and then just not give them our jokes and not write the show. And the Writers Guild was like, oh, we'll back them into a corner and they'll have to. And they were literally, the show was like, okay. And they called 10 comics in town and just said, hey, can you write these jokes real fast? And it was never a thing, like not even a hiccup in the show's production. Didn't miss anything, So,
and I think what feels, having not experienced it, I have talked to some other people that were there with you, and I know that one of the things that seems really sort of messed up is that when all was said and done, all these people at the Guild who said they're going to have your backs and help you get into other jobs, and they were like, peace out, sorry it didn't work out, boink.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no one from, they didn't even give us, which I don't know why this has been a sticking point for me, but they didn't even give us Writers Guild memberships. I was like, you know what?
Jesus.
We gave up our job. We gave up our dreams. We totally killed this career that we were starting. For you, you talked us into it. Can we at least become members of the Writers Guild? And they literally said, no, you have to get hired on a union show and earn your points. And I was like, I think marching in a picket line and publicly going on strike for you is earning our points, It was, I still have so much rage in my body over it, because it's just like, I can't believe we did that and that they did that to us.
Yeah, it's like, put a stamp in my comp card, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, right? It was so frustrating.
Wow. Well, you made it past that, and I know at the end of the day, I think certainly you can always say that you got to write jokes for Joan Rivers, for better or worse, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, in the moment, I was mad at Joan, because we all kind of were, because she wasn't standing up for us or helping us. Looking back, I really liked her, and writing for her was a dream, She was an idol of mine my whole life. And one thing I learned from the strike is that you can't pay your bills with your dreams coming true. So,
that's right.
That's why we tried to unionize and get more money and stuff.
I think Joan, to me, represents a very good example of someone who can be more than one thing at a time. And people want her to be just one thing. And the truth is there's a lot of facets to who Joan Rivers was. And some of them maybe aren't the best or most exciting things we want to embrace. But she's still a damn legend. So
yeah, and she was kind, extremely kind. She was a very nice woman, and very authentic. I never felt, she never gave off an air of fake. Her daughter. Melissa is one of the fakest people on the planet, but Joan was great.
Would you like to share any stories about Melissa Rivers?
I mean, we always just kind of she's that girl at the party, she's a one-upper, and it's funny because she's Melissa Rivers. So it's girl, your reputation, your life, you don't have to physically one-up us when we're having a discussion, but I could have said oh, I bought this purse for 50% off. And she's like, well, I got it for 55% off. Literally just she would always relate to your story with a story where she did something better than you,
Wow.
And we would write the show at Melissa's house in the Palisades. Joan never lived in LA. Joan would always fly to LA from New York every week to write the show. And so we would go to the Palisades to write the show. We never did it at E. We did it at Melissa's house in the Palisades. And we would always start every day with her staff cooking us lunch. So we'd be sitting in the kitchen having lunch, and Joan and Melissa never ate with us, but Melissa would always come in kind of at the end of lunch and be like, hey guys, what are you doing? What's going on? And just join our conversations, okay, I mean, we're in your house. I get it. You're serving us food, but you didn't really, and I kind of take it back. She didn't even say like, hey guys, what's up? She would just walk in and join a conversation, you know, like not even like try to have like pleasantries.
I wonder what
And
it's
like, we'd
like
be
to
like,
be the child of someone so prolific and have that kind of need to make sure everybody knows that you're like somebody. Do you know what I mean?
I think we're noticing it with the Trumps, you know, it's just like, they don't know anything else. That is their life. There's just no way around it. Like people that are born into it are a different mindset than people that have earned it. It's just how it is, you know, even the most humblest, nicest people, if they were born into it, still have that weird thought process.
That little,
That
yeah.
switch is always going to be there.
Well, somehow you moved from that experience into working for RuPaul's Drag Race. And I just have to say, there's a good, I guess there's like a 6-year gap. I worked for RuPaul for about 2 years, somewhere in the area of when the Star Booty movie came out,
Yeah.
just to like right when they were creating Drag Race's first season. I actually helped edit the video promo looking for queens to appear on season 1. And I'm very proud that it's absolute garbage. I'll post a link in the podcast so everyone can watch it. It is like 420 pixelation nonsense. It's the wigs came from like maybe a sewer. I'm not sure. It's so bad. And I'm really proud of it. But mostly I answered emails and messages to Ru on MySpace as the voice of Ru. That was a big part of what I did. And it was so much fun. But not probably as fun as literally creating challenges for the show.
Yeah.
And did you just were like the one? You were the one that created the challenges?
No, there was a team of us.
Okay.
There's a challenge team. So the show takes about 12 weeks to produce. So the first 6 weeks was pre-production, and like the first day of the job was like meetings in a boardroom, just pitching ideas, just saying words, you know? And literally the first day was when I was like, what about Shakespeare? That's never been done. Because you're like, it's season 7. It was like the first season where the internet was really paying attention, like, you know, before anything was even cast. Like the internet was like just kind of starting to develop for Drag Race.
Like starting to buzz about who might appear, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like Reddit threads and stuff like that. So, but like show-wise and challenge-wise, like ultimately everything had already been done. So it was to the point where you're just like grasping, you know, at words.
People are just around a table like, dildo, feathers, yes!
Yeah.
Wow.
So the first, I would say like 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, is just pitching ideas, whittling them down into challenges, and then pitching all those challenges to Ru and the executive producers and talking them out, and then letting them figure out what they are, and then letting them ultimately put them in the voice of the show, and then giving them back to us. And so then we make pretty much a production calendar of which challenges for which episodes, and then we had to produce them. So like if they needed supplemental wigs, or if there was a sponsor, like a wig sponsor of that challenge, we had to make the prize cart that the pit crew rolls in, you know, like everything about the challenge we had to produce. So
it wasn't even just creative. You were like practical. You were in there.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
my God.
We had to work with the costume department. Like if there's a challenge, like when we did the granny, the old lady challenge, we had like write out a list and have the costumers go to Goodwill and get old lady dresses. And we had to like source, you know, in season 7, we had big girls and little girls. So we had to be like, okay, to make it fair, like make sure you get like 4, 5, 6XL in this, and make sure you also get small and extra small in this. Like,
sure,
you get huge size ranges of everything. And it's so funny. And this is just production in general, how much stuff is wasted. You just have to buy so much, so there's options for the queens, and then they use maybe 10% of it because it just has to be there for the challenge, but they're not necessarily going to use it. So there's always tons of leftover material and wigs and clothes and stuff like that. So the queens are cast and the challenges are written the first 6 weeks. And then we moved to the studio. And this is how we did it on season 7. It could be totally different now. But then week 6, we moved to the studio and set up studio offices and started doing the show. Just like the queen showed up and it's instant production, and each episode takes a couple days. So,
and then there's just, and by the time it's all said and done, you've just sort of got dumpsters full of stuff for the dumpster queens to pull out when everything is finished.
And if you have a really keen eye for detail and you watch all of Drag Race ever sequentially, you'll see things rolling over. You'll be like, oh, that sequin material was used in this challenge, and now it's in this challenge, and this queen used it, like you'll see it.
Yeah, I spoke to,
which is good. It's green.
Sure. I spoke to a queen at DragCon New York who will remain nameless, but she told me that every challenge is a found materials challenge, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Just depends like who's doing the finding.
So just for out of morbid curiosity, why didn't you continue on at Drag Race? Did another opportunity come up?
Season 7 was also the first season that the internet tore apart. Like a lot of people said it was boring, even though like looking back, it's such a super iconic season and so much came from it. I mean, so many huge Drag Race stars came out of season 7, if you think about it. But when it happened, it got torn apart and they kind of restructured the show a little bit. And so they didn't bring us back. And then I had done, and it's also on me because I had done a podcast at the time and they didn't like, I'd signed an NDA and I did a podcast, didn't say anything, like didn't break the NDA, but I just did a podcast talking about the production of the show. And they did not like that I was like telling secrets. I kind of got like the Willem treatment. I was like, I didn't say anything that people didn't know, but they just felt, I guess they couldn't trust me anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that the truth is you ruined Drag Race forever and you're going to have to live with that.
I did. Because all those Emmys are just so much clutter having all those Emmys around. Now they have to buy furniture to store them on. Like it was a hassle.
I think one of my favorite things in recent Ru related things is I think it was at the Emmys in the backstage after receiving the award where a journalist confronted Ru like literally after winning the Emmys, right? And was like, how come everyone that does this show except for you is like a straight white guy or something to that effect? And Ru was like weirdly defensive, but at the same time didn't have an answer and was kind of like, I think the answer was like, because that's who's paying.
I will say that the crew of the show, the directors, lighting, sound, construction, art department, well, no, not the art department, we're all straight. But my team, all gay. It was all cis gay men, though. Just like cis gay, mostly white men. Almost all white, a couple Latino men. But just like cis white gay men. Like the whole challenge team was white, cis and gay. The art department was all gay. The executive producers are all gay.
Sure.
So there's a lot of gay people. And like one of the executive producers is like a Polynesian lesbian, So like there's a bunch of diversity. There was a bunch of diversity there. It's just not what gets talked about, I guess. I've always thought that Drag Race had a pretty diverse crew or production mindset, because even a lot of the straight people were diverse ethnically. So like there's a lot of diversity on Drag Race. It definitely gets dragged for not being like trans inclusive and stuff like that. But I think there's good diversity there. It just gets overlooked. And like people stick their foot in their mouth and don't explain it properly, like Ru did at that award show.
Right. Right, but no, it's good. It's good to hear that information from like the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? It's funny, kind of talking about Joan Rivers. RuPaul is one of those people that like, I will always, always love RuPaul on television, especially when RuPaul's in drag. Boy RuPaul, I don't really care about that much, but like drag RuPaul will always be amazing. I will always be a huge fan. I love looking at RuPaul in drag. I love listening to him and his like weird junk science and, like all of his Oprah talk. And so that like, I love his podcast. Like I love RuPaul as a star, but he's one of those people in real life that I'm like, I could go without talking to him for the rest of my life. I'm going to keep you as a star, and an icon in my head, and I'm going to love when I see you on TV, like his Old Navy campaign right now. I live for it every time it comes on. But like him in real life is almost like a different person to me. So I'm just like, I don't care about that guy. I don't like that guy, but I like the one on TV. You know what I'm saying?
I
Whereas
do.
Joan,
I
I
agree. I've
liked
had the same
Joan.
experience of RuPaul that you have, for
Yeah,
sure.
and I like Joan in real life. I liked Joan in real life and on TV, if that makes sense. So I liked everything about Joan Rivers, but RuPaul, I just like the performance aspect of
Got it. Roger that.
it.
Well, he's not writing either of our checks anymore, so let's move on.
Nope. Yeah.
Let's talk about Gay Fat Friend because, and I
Okay.
cannot, there's no exaggerative nature to what I'm about to say. It is the most important thing in my life. It is possibly the most important thing in pop culture right now. And I'm fairly certain that mostly nude photos of you will be in the Smithsonian at some point.
Oh, wow.
So just stew in that for a moment.
Oh,
No, I'm
nice
I
to
mean,
hear.
I think for obvious reasons I can relate to Gay Fat Friend, but first of all, tell everybody what Gay Fat Friend is, and then tell everybody sort of how it came to be.
So Gay Fat Friend is an Instagram account that has like kind of spread to Twitter and TikTok, but it started as an Instagram account. It started as a joke, actually. You know, living in West Hollywood, we have a lot of like Insta-gays and shirtless thoughts, and Instagram in LA is very much like shirtless at the gym, ripped abs at a party, you know, pool parties, Mexico beach every weekend, kind of that image, right? They're all kind of famous for it, and they get a lot of attention, and none of them ever had a fat friend. First of all, none of them are ever fat. Like fat gay Instagrammers just don't get famous, you know, it's just not a thing. But then all these like ripped gay Insta-gay guys never had any fat friends. There's always just big groups of all the same bodies in a picture at a pool party. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to Photoshop myself into their pictures with my shirt off. And I'm going to be their fat friend. And I'm going to show them what it looks like if there's a fat person in the picture. And like my original thought was that like, see, we're still having fun. Everybody's still having fun because like there's a fat guy in the picture, but you're still smiling the same. You know, it was just like a weird kind of thought process. So I found like the group of Los Angeles Insta-gays that I kind of detested the most. And I grabbed 6 or 7 of his pictures and I was like, okay, I'm going to do a photo shoot shirtless and Photoshop myself into these pictures just kind of as like a one-time installation post. Posted it on my personal Instagram and on my Facebook and on Twitter, and was just going to kind of leave it at that. Like, oh, great, that'll be a fun post. It's a funny joke, and I'll probably get a little attention for it, whatever.
And then
it just blew up. Like people were sharing it, and people were messaging me and texting me, and I was getting messages from people around the country and around the world, and I was like, holy shit. And my friend Lucas, actually, he was like, you need to turn this into its own thing and keep doing it. And I was like, really? Like, the joke has been done. Like I said, by posting the pictures, I'm like, I said the joke. The joke is out. Like, how do I keep it going? And he's like, just keep finding pictures and adding yourself to them, and keep writing funny captions for them, and just make it its own thing. And I was like, isn't that kind of like when people get an Instagram for their dog? Like, do I really want to be? And he was like, just do it. Just trust me. I originally wanted to call it Fat Gay Friend, but I think that was taken. And so then I was like, fine, I'll just do Gay Fat Friend, which now looking back, like rolls off the tongue easier anyway. Yeah, I got Gay Fat Friend. I registered it. I posted those pictures to it and then started posting like every day. And it just blew up. And I got like 10,000 followers in the first month. This was last October, November. So yeah, and then it just kept going from there. And my original goal was to post a picture every day for a year. But then the world like just went to shit. And especially like last June when all the protests were happening and stuff, I was like, it's inappropriate to be funny right now. Like,
I remember that. You were very clear about it too. Like what I really liked about that is that you posted something about it and you're like very unambiguously, you're like, look, let's just take a break from this and talk about shit that matters and we'll come back to it. I'm not saying we can't have fun, but let's just take a break. I thought that was really admirable, Todd, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah, I felt gross, you know, like I literally was like, finding pictures and I was like, this isn't funny anymore. Like this right now, this is weird. I can't do this. And then I took a couple weeks off and then I like slowly eased back and I started back doing like celebrity pictures because like making fun of guys I don't know, using their pictures that I just find on Instagram is one thing. But like, I feel like using celebrity pictures, like I did Ricky Martin week. I just did Ricky Martin for 5 days.
I recall, yeah.
And I was like, using a celebrity is easier to like ease back into the joke. Then the pandemic got worse. And now it's to the point where like, I do a lot more video work and stuff too, because that's just ridiculous to me. Like the videos and the TikToks that these guys post, I'm like, well, I got to make fun of this. So I do a lot more video work now, but also because the pandemic is so bad, like whenever I see a picture of a group of gay guys, I just get enraged. Yeah, I just get so mad.
But don't you think that's a beautiful genesis of what you were already doing? Because, I mean, you were obviously, I mean, it was hilarious and you had a bone to pick, but you were also drawing attention to the fact that in the gay dude community, fat men are generally left out of the discussion completely. So that was kind of a statement you were making. But then it became this thing about like, holy shit, why are there 10 of you on an island while like literally California is on fire behind you in your thongs taking a fucking picture? And you had every right to be enraged, but you found a way to make it hilarious too. It's just great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So, but that's the thing. It's like now I just like, now it's gotten so big and to the point where like people send me their pictures and ask me to use them. And that started happening.
Of course they do.
That started happening in like May. Like that started happening a long time ago. Like people are like, can you please make fun of me? And I'm like, and I feel bad because I'm like, you have 800 followers. Like if I'm going to like do this and kind of like go against my, not morals, but like if I'm going to like start letting you in on the joke that hard, like you got to at least promote me. And you know, like you're not going to help
like
my cause.
That's not the mission statement to target someone with 800 followers. So I get it.
You know, yeah. Like I'm trying to not make fun of. I'm trying to like rib the guys that have 1 million followers. You know, just like the ones that are really big for being shirtless. Like you are famous and you work in being shirtless. Like those are the people I'm going after. You know.
Yeah, you're an abdominal model. That's what I call them.
Yeah, and so. So yeah, people started asking me to use their pictures, but now I just feel bad. Oh, that was the thing. Like, so now I am gay fat friend, right? Like that's like my brand apparently, and people think I am this guy. And so I don't want to put the image out that I'm at these parties with these guys not quarantining and not wearing masks and stuff. Like I don't want to make fun of the pandemic, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So
do people actually think that those are real?
Some people do think they're real, first of all. Yes, some people think they're real. And I'm like, my favorite response is, it's a joke. It's not real. Like, I love when people comment the stupidest thing thinking it's real. And I'm just like, it's a joke. It's not real. But I just also don't want to put that image into the world of people partying and stuff anymore right now. The pictures I am using, I'm trying to like make it look like we're socially distanced or we're acknowledging the pandemic in some sort, you know? Because yeah, I don't want to just go back to posting like me at a party with a bunch of guys because that's what it looks like is happening, and I don't want that to happen, you know?
Well, I think one of my favorite gay fat friend memes, really honestly it is the like check in and make sure your friends are okay one, or I call it the are you okay buddy?
Hey buddy.
Where it'll just be some muscle jock doing something really absurd, like handcuffing themselves to the inside of their car or something, and then it just cuts to you and you're like, you okay buddy?
Yeah, it's so weird because if I stumbled upon that in real life, or if an actual friend was doing that in front of me, I'd be like, what's going on up there? You thinking okay? You doing okay? Like, because it's just so weird. It's so weird.
It's brilliant though.
People post.
I think my other favorite too, just I think it's a lot of people's favorites, is just there seems to be this recurring thing that jocks do where they distend their 2% body fat in their stomach area and then like smack it and suck it in and show off their abs. And gay fat friend will try to do the same thing, and he's like, why isn't it working?
Just never works for me. And they just make it look so easy, you know?
I hope Gay Fat Friend stays around for a long time, and I hope you can find a way to navigate through the pandemic and feel like you're still doing something that's meaningful and funny. You know, that's a big deal. And I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, so to speak, but I just think it's genius. And you know, some of us think you're way hotter than the other guys in the pictures. So giant wink.
Thank you.
Well, I don't want to keep you forever and ever. I do want to say though, sort of it's such a gotcha. I love it. Not really. But doing Gay Fat Friend in the way that's becoming sort of tied into your identity. I know that you're creeping up on, if I'm not incorrect, you're creeping up on 40. Is that right?
I turned 40 in August.
You just turned 40. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that when you were 35, you were sort of going through this thing of like feeling like you had hit an age where you didn't really identify with like the young people that were, you know, TikToking their way into a career that you had always aimed for. How are you feeling now at 40? Are you feeling like you're settling into it?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the reasons why Gay Fat Friend started too. I mean, before this, I was like a never nude. I never even took my shirt off at the beach. Like, I was always self-conscious about my body, and I'm very embarrassed about the body that I lived in and stuff like that. And then the older I got, I started realizing that like, that's all in my head. None of that's real. I'm forcing that on myself. And by living like that and forcing that on myself, I'm just perpetuating that stereotype, you know, of like being fat and embarrassed. And I was like, I don't want to be embarrassed anymore. I want to take off my shirt because who cares? And now that I'm 40, I'm just like, yeah, I don't care about anything anymore. You know, like I'm not afraid of anything. Like I'll do whatever. I'll raise the middle finger to anything now. I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm doing this. I don't care anymore. So
that's fantastic though.
And it's not even in like a proud old lady sense. Like, I don't care that I'm 40. I'm going to have fun on TikTok because TikTok is fun for me. You know, I'm going to do that. I don't care what people say about age. I'm going to do this because now that I am 40, I'm like, oh, that doesn't mean anything. I still feel like I'm 12. So except for my knees and ankles.
Right. Yeah. Back and feet for me, but like, so we'll swap out one day, see how it goes.
Yeah. My new thing is, and this literally started a month before I turned 40, which I have to like go to the doctor. I have to make like specialist appointments for now, but apparently I have an enlarged prostate and like, I can't pee in the morning. Like peeing in the morning is difficult now.
Well, there's your new Twitter.
Yeah, enlarged prostate.
It's very popular, and don't ask me how I know, but it is.
But yeah, I'm like, really? I turned 40 and now I have an enlarged. I sound like a commercial for a weird prescription medication. I have an enlarged prostate. Like I have to pay attention to shit like that now. I never had to care about shit like that before.
Yeah,
so like,
it's fun. It's great. I lost a tooth to diabetes, and I was like, how is that a thing? No, I've been diabetic for 6 years.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Everything can break thanks to diabetes, and so I have prided myself on excellent dental health. And then one day I woke up and the tooth was like, yeah, I'm gonna peace out if you don't mind. I'm just gonna live.
It just fell out like you were a kid.
I had to actually have it pulled because it was so loose and wiggling that they had to just finish it off. So that's fun because you know how insurance likes to pay for unnecessary medical procedures. So can't wait to pay for that implant. Yeah. But I'm gonna because I'm like I'm very similar to you. Like I don't care. I'm 41. I'm like a supermodel. Suck it. But I wasn't thrilled about an entire tooth jumping ship. So I hear you.
Yeah. It's like, come on, buddy. Don't give up.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's right. And also I'm just kind of like, when are we gonna live on hard drives? Like I'm ready.
Yeah, exactly. Just upload me to the server.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good to go. I can play World of Warcraft and watch reruns of Ugly Betty at the same time.
Yeah, that's the dream.
That's the dream. Good God, I've said too much. Todd, I was not lying when I said I was excited to have you be my first guest. I really think you're just a gem. And, you know, my dream for you, if I'm allowed to have one and I'm not asking permission, is for you to be able to, I really want to see you like be the next late night host. I think you would make such a fantastic, just like, you know, I mean, okay, I'll be honest. I'd rather someone not white first, but then you.
Yeah.
But I know, I feel like that's, if I can be honest, where you're headed. And I mean, you're right. Now you can do it from Seattle. So I'm going to dream that dream for you if that's okay.
Oh, thanks.
And
Yeah, that's
I
a
wish
good
you
dream. I'll
nothing but
share it with you.
success. Oh, by the way, Gay Fat Friend has merch, including
Yeah.
t-shirts and stickers. All you have to do is go to gayfatfriend.bigcartel.com. That link will be in the text for the podcast as well. And you're at Gay Fat Friend on literally everything.
Yeah, my Twitter, so I pretty much have two profiles everywhere. My Twitter, I actually tweet at Todd Masterson the most. Gay Fat Friend on Twitter is just a backup account.
Got it.
But Instagram, Gay Fat Friend, and TikTok, Gay Fat Friend, are my two biggest profiles. And then Twitter is at Todd Masterson.
And everybody should follow both because there's a lot of stuff on the TikTok that's not on the Instagram that just kills me. A lot of duets and like just reactions to these just absolute nut jobs that permeate the platform. Not to just TikTok. I know everybody loves it. I'll figure it out. I'm a hot mess.
Oh, no, it's crazy, but their algorithm is so smart that it's fun. Like, I don't see bullshit. I only see the stuff I like. Like, my TikTok feed is almost all animals and funny gay stuff.
Oh, well, that's great.
Yeah, it really works out for me.
You've gamed the system.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Todd. I just can't thank you enough. Everybody absolutely go subscribe and check Todd out. And yeah, babe, thanks again. And take care of you and take care of your dude.
Thanks. I will. Take care of yourself, too.
Oh my God. That was Todd Masterson. Can you stand it? I can't. What a great first guest to have on This Queen Again. That's me, by the way, in case you hadn't figured out what the title represented. Listen, that was actually part 1 of our debut episode. Why? Because I just can't get enough gay people telling me about their lives. So there's going to be a two-parter, a second half, and it's a separate episode. It's 1A, if you will, with Jen Curcio, an amazing queer sketch and improv comedian from LA. I promise there will be guests in the future who aren't from LA. So why don't you jump on into that second episode and enjoy it? And in the meantime, thank you so much for being here with me. I am having so much fun already. Are you? Tell me about it. Leave me a comment. Send me an email. All that good stuff. And yeah, let's have some more fun in part 2. I'll talk to you then.